And welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Odwak Amimo. Now, we hear a lot about counties failing, but a recent survey ranks not just counties, but their elected leaders by performance and indicators such as devolved functions. The County Track Index was created by InfoTrack Research and Consulting. Its chief executive is Angela Mbitho, who is one of our guests today, along with Dr. Alfred Mutua, Governor of Machakos County, which performed exceptionally well in the inaugural County Track Index. Also with us, the panel of one, David McCally, because Mutegi Njau, our other panelist, is away on leave. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Ms. Mbitho, I'll start with you. Give us the rationale for this County Track Index.
Right. Udwak, if you recall, when we ushered in our new constitution, Kenyans, were very clear and emphatic about the new system of governance that they wanted to have, which was embedded within devolution. And of course, with that came very high expectations. And sometimes expectations, I think, behoove on the custodians, like the governors, to actually understand what the citizens are thinking. And when we looked at the first year of devolution and the assessment that was done by various stakeholders, we felt that the assessment was, in some cases, not very fair, in certain cases, too exaggerated. And so we decided, why don't we, construct a scientific instrument to actually assess what the citizens think about this system of governance that they had so much hope in and for. And so we developed an instrument looking at all the devolved functions, 14 of them, and then of course including public participation, and asked them what they thought their governors, or what they thought, how they thought their governors had performed with regards to all those, indicators and functions, devolved functions.
So what were you measuring? What was your sample size?
The sample size was quite robust. For each county, we had a sample size of between 600, depending on the population of that county, all the way to 1,800. For instance, in Nairobi, because we have so many administrative units, we had to have a boosted sample. But where the population is small, or you have a minimum of, say, 20 wards, then the sample size was only 600. In the case of Machakos, which is not a small county with a population of over 1 million people, then the sample size was 800.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did you survey people? Was it telephone? Was it door-to-door?
It was, yes, it's an interesting question. We did use telephone. Now we are told that the mobile penetration in Kenya is slightly over 80%.
Yeah.
And so what this then tells us is at least each household has access to a mobile phone.
How do you find people? Because I've never been sampled.
Exactly.
You will be sampled the more surveys are done. This first one we sampled 28,000. Minimum 28,000 people. And what tends to happen is, with the laws of probability, to ensure that you get an opportunity to be sampled, then more surveys need to be done. And so if we then get more research companies doing polling, then your likelihood of being polled would be much higher.
How do you get our numbers?
How did we get your numbers is a good question. Over the last 2 years or so, what we have done is gone out into the field. And every time that we've collected large surveys, we also collect database, compile a database of numbers. So for instance, if we were doing a survey in Nairobi, and we do very many, then what we do is we spend at least 2 or 3 days after the survey collecting databases from people using a random method. And so you have to agree to participate or agree to be included in the database. And once you do that, then we just put you into.
And you're not calling the same people over and over again?
We try not to.
Okay.
We give it a 6-month window. So if we do a survey with you today, then we'd try and give you 6 months. And of course, if the random sampling picks you again, one of the things that we do is we have a screener. And so we ask whether you have been involved in a survey in the last 6 months. And if you've actually been involved in a survey, whether it's been with us as Infotrack or another company, then we can't actually ask you a question again.
Okay. Dr. Mutu, I'll come to you because the survey finds you to be exceptional. You're one of the top performers, along with Governor Ken Lusaka of Bungoma and a couple of others. Did you pay to be found exceptional?
It's been alleged.
It's been alleged that you're paying.
No. I mean, I think it's just a reality of what is happening on the ground. Once we started our Maendeleo chap-chap, and the things that we set out to do, and we just did them, and this is a reflection of that. And it took us by surprise. It's a good surprise because we knew we were doing things well. We knew from the feel on the ground that people were with us in terms of the development projects. And I think it's been very clear, I think, to all Kenyans that we started running from the very beginning, and we are doing things using the little money that we have.
David, I'm sure you remember that the last time Dr. Mutu was here, I think that was about 2 years ago, in 2013. You gave us an ambitious roadmap of the things you intended to do. I think there was entertainment, a film festival, you talked about water, you talked about a road. Can we track some of those achievements?
Yes. What I did is, before I became governor, I asked myself, why do I want to become governor? I was in a powerful position as government spokesperson. I was paid well, so it was not an issue of money or power. And so I listed down all the things that I thought needed to be done for my people of Machakos and how they needed to be done. So when I came here in 2013, those are the things that I was talking about. And we've been able to do them. I mean, we built the fastest built constructed road in the country. We have provided access to water. I bought 8 drilling rigs, which are currently drilling boreholes, and we'll be announcing how many boreholes we've drilled very soon. We don't talk about what we want to do. Most of the time we talk about what we've done. We are looking at issues of healthcare. Now, our mothers used to be carried by wheelbarrows to hospitals and die on the streets because of lack of ambulances. We bought an ambulance for every ward, every location rather, that is being used to take our mothers to hospital. We have constructed 40 new community hospitals, 1 per ward, each with a theater, with a ward, in a lab, which we are about to open in a few weeks' time. So we've done all these things. We bought the tractors to expand our agricultural output. We've opened up ECDs. We've expanded our polytechnics. So everything that pertains to Mwananchi, we are doing.
So what is undone, Alfred, from your grand plan, which was very, people say it grandiose, actually?
What we've not done yet is that we've not yet built the factories that I want to build. We've not yet provided the employment that needs to be provided. Because, you see, development, according to me, is a 3-tier process. There's taking care of the basics. This is taking care of water, security, shelter, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Then you get to the second level. This is where you provide infrastructure. We still have many roads that we need to build. You know, I've got my areas of Sokimau, for example, with cotton soil. Many areas we don't have roads. Well, we need to build the roads for our people, build a railway system that we plan to build for the county, our transport system. And then there's the higher level of investments, bringing in the factories, bringing in people to move to the higher level.
But I mean, all these things, you look, you know, you are definitely what we would call the star governor. But other people seem to be having challenges, you know, accomplishing some of the things you're listing. What works for you?
I think it's because I have understood the Kenyan system. Working for nearly 10 years for President Mwai Kibaki, people ask me, what did you learn? It's not basically, I did not learn just how to do things, but I learned how not to do things. Because we've been repeating the same mediocrity, what you call mediocre actions since independence. And so we have to change our style of doing things. That's why I came up with this ideology called, or philosophy called, Maendeleo chap-chap.
Chap-chap.
Where you decide you want to do something, you plan how to do it, you think through it, and then you do it. You don't just talk about it. Our books have, you know, in our libraries, in our government offices, many plans that are never actualized. And I think that is what has set us apart.
Let's drill down on that, because one of the indicators was county planning and development. And so to, you know, flesh out David's question, you ranked highest with 57.8 on county planning and development. What did you do?
What we did is this, and we did not do very well, I saw in the about public participation. But we hold meetings with our people up to the location level, and we ask them, what do you want? Because at times as leaders, we think we know what the people want. We have a basic idea of the basics that people want. And then we plan accordingly, and we have a timeline, because we have very little money. The money we are given is minuscule. And so we try to squeeze the shilling to actually achieve something. Now, the technique I've taken in Machakos is not to come up with master plans or grandiose plans or what we will do in 15, 20 years, is actually to go out and do it. And so every village now, basically in Machakos County, has a Mulikamwizi. We plan to have a Mulikamwizi for security, has a Mulikamwizi. We have our 500 CCTV cameras because we set out to have CCTV cameras. We don't engage in too much feasibility studies, because you go to a village, you know, this place, this is the road that has been used. It's a road in the map. It says there should be a road here. It's a village road that has been used. Why do you need a feasibility study to build that road to a better level? Because you know it's a road, it's in the map, it's a road. So why hold a feasibility study for 1 year, spend millions of shillings? So go ahead and build that road for 90, let them use it.
But doesn't that open
growth.
you up to allegations of misappropriation of funds? We hear from other counties that you know, facilities were built in, you know, place X, whereas they should have been built in place B, you know, or whatever. How do you address that?
What you address that is by ensuring, and this is the thing that you're doing. You see, misappropriation of funds comes when it comes to issues of tendering. I have made a decision in Machakos that we are going to build our own roads. We're going to go the Chinese way. We're going to go the Japanese way. We're going to go the Australian way. So we have invested highly in equipment. We've bought bulldozers, we've bought graders, and now we've just procured bitumen and kokoto and all those things, and we've hired engineers. We build our own roads. So we can build as many roads as we want.
When you say you build your own roads, I mean, as a county, so we are not giving out tenders to contractors to do these roads, or?
We are giving out tenders to some roads, but we want to build majority of roads ourselves.
Incidentally, Machakos also scored very high on transport.
Yeah. It is much cheaper. For example, it is easier to build a kilometer of road when you build it yourselves for about 5 to 6 million a kilometer. Ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we are buying the raw materials, and people are employed, or engineers are the same ones, and our equipment, you know, 5 to 8 million. But if you contract that road, it will cost 17 to 20, 25 million shillings. So you can build 5 kilometers while others are building 1 kilometer. Because in my head, it's all about service to Mwananchi. How do you squeeze the shilling? Because we are a poor economy, and move people to the next level.
Maybe Angela should tell us why you rated him #1. Because there are people who say, as you know, Udwak said, that did he pay? Or the others say, no, this is just Alfred's PR.
I just removed my microphone and said, what the hell? But no.
What stands out,
Alfred
what works for him
pay.
And the top echelons, because we look at the others who follow.
And in actual fact, I think he learnt about the index from the news. And then contacted us to actually share the index. What we did last year, David, is that we, as we conceptualized the index and what indicators we should include in the index, we spoke with various governors, including Machakos. And we did pilot studies with select counties and went to them and got feedback from them on what would be a good and fair way and just way of gauging the performance of counties, and then developed and refined those indicators. Once that was done, we did not inform them about the window within which we were going to conduct the survey. We then conducted the survey between December, because it was a large survey, between December and February, tail end of December and then through to February. And it is not my perception or the perception of Infotrack, it is the perception of those people who live in Machakos County. So they're the ones who rated, using 32 indicators, rated Machakos on various, you know, indicators, and gave a scale or a rating from 1 to 10. And so we would ask them,
on each of the indicators.
On each of the indicators.
So you aggregated all this to get her to score,
correct,
to rank the governors and the counties.
Exactly.
In terms of how they,
exactly. And so it was based on that, and because we said we use cluster, so every county had more or less the same sample. So one wouldn't even say I was unfairly allocated.
So there is a
sample.
possibility, in fact, that this could just be perception, but the reality is totally different. Alfred could be last. in actual development or response to those devolution indices?
This
What is the
could
possibility
be
there could be
a
disparity
likelihood,
between reality and perception?
but I think, David, what you know as a communications expert is perception is deemed to be reality. This is what we know. If you think that the road, if we ask you, are you satisfied with the performance of a county government with respect to infrastructure, for instance? Now, they may feel amiable about a specific governor. Yes. And so, obviously, for various reasons, they would want to rate that governor well. But the question then behooves on us to ask, why do they feel that way? Mm-hmm. Is it just because this person is sexy? Or is it actually because this person is delivering on those things that they promised to deliver? I would like to believe that it should be the latter. Right. But of course, because our excellencies are also politicians, we also know that they do know how to give things a spin and twist and make people feel good. Yeah. But then I tend to think that perception in itself may not be the only indicator of gauging how how counties are performing, but it is a good gauge of telling us how people feel about the performance of the county governments. And let me say this, in 2017, when they're going to the ballot, it is a perception that determines how they vote.
We'll come to 2017 in a minute. Yes. But just picking up on Dr. Mutua's sharing of his past experience in government, helping him. And this is what you actually distill. That the top performers, Machakos, Bungoma, Vihiga, Bomet, Kwale, Elgeyo Marakwet, Taita Taveta, Kisii, West Pokot rather, Kakamega, Kericho, Murang'a, Nandi, Uasin Gishu, and Mombasa, all have county executives with past experience in public service. Or some sort of administrative background. Yes. How does that help them? How does that give them some sort of advantage over their counterparts?
When we spoke to most of the top performing governors, what we found out is that, like Alfred said, it was easier for them to identify quick wins and to grab the low-hanging fruits and to grab those. That's one. Secondly, they didn't have to accustom themselves or acclimatize to the system. They knew how things should work. Now, if you are coming from private sector, although we have two governors who came from private sector, John Mrutu and Salim Vuria.
Although, of course, you point out that Salim Vuria had worked with Plan International and Aga Khan Foundation.
Yes, and Mrutu has also worked with an institution that is 40% owned by government. So, although he clarified to me yesterday, it's a private company, it wasn't. And so I think this gave them that advantage. They could actually hit the ground running.
Was it also an advantage of networks? That you already know people within the system, and so in the for instance, with you, we find that you're in an opposition party, but the president comes to your functions. The president opens your flagship projects, and so it seems that you benefit from the network.
It's about networks, but it's also about setting up systems. You see, governments are set up in a certain way, different than how businesses are set up. So understanding how a government structure needs to be set up, how an office has an accountant, there's a way government is set up, so that has given us an advantage. Myself, for example, and my brother Lusaka, we were, as permanent secretaries, we were there in organization of government structure. We know what a department needs. We know all these things that are needed, so it gives an advantage. To reply to the innuendos being made by my good friend here, Makali, about perception versus reality. There's a difference between just talking about things and going to the ground. I want you to come to Machakos. When you see 120 security vehicles patrolling the county, that is not perception, that is reality. When you see the CCTVs, that is not perception, that is reality. When you go to every location right now, you'll find
do your cameras work?
Yeah, they work. I've told my people if they don't work, they go
There were claims that there was an overkill on all those facilities.
There was what?
An overkill,
There's no overkill.
On all those facilities.
Everything was based on
CCTVs,
people.
Police cars that you...
Overkill in what sense, David?
As in, they were, you know, more than required to serve the I mean, it's okay to have...
but you see, David,
okay,
let me interrupt you. That is where we fail. That is where we fail.
That was the argument that was proffered, and I'm sure you're aware of it.
I'm aware of it. It's a very simplistic idea. Let me tell you an example. You see, you've got 1.2 million people spread all over, with a mother is giving birth at night. Now, internationally, if you call an ambulance and you're bleeding in the middle of the night in London, the ambulance will be at your doorstep within 5 minutes. Why should you have only one ambulance that gets to you in 30 minutes just because you're an African or you're in Kenya? What I've decided is that my people, my mothers who are giving birth at night, are going to get the same treatment as a mother in Europe. So to you it may be an overkill because you may think the ambulance is sitting there, but wait until your father gets a heart attack or your mother or your grandfather gets a heart attack. You know what I mean? So the idea is about, are you able to provide this service? And that is where we even moved further and said, don't just provide an ambulance that now takes somebody half an hour to 1 hour. That's why we've built even community hospitals that are closer to the people, and you equip them. We have to get out of this African, I call it an African mentality of minimalistic, where we always feel sorry for ourselves and think that a lot is not good for us. Sisi ni wa Afrika, kidogo imetosha. We must aspire. And I always say, when a child is born in the United States, that child's chances of dying before the age of 5 are very minimal. The child goes to school wearing shoes, the child goes to a clean school, the child is educated well, the child is fed well, they never sleep hungry. Now I ask myself, why are my children in Machakos sleeping hungry? Why are my children walking with no shoes? Why are they walking with streets of dust? Kwani waliumba wazungu waliumba na Mungu na sisi tukaumba na shetani.
Because you sit
and so that is what I have decided, Makali.
I get what I'm saying, what you're saying. And that's an argument that is proffered by people. I'm just putting it to you, and your response is that. But the question is, you sit with all these other governors. I mean, you're in the council of governors. I mean, don't these things rub off others? Because, I mean, there are places where there are demonstrations against poor health, including my own county. Lusaka is my friend. We talk a lot. But you find these things happening, and he's well written. Other counties are having big challenges around the issues you try to solve by these massive action. In security terms, health, those
operating businesses, taxes.
What is it that they, why don't they take your model? Let me put it that way.
I think the Constitution is very clear that we have 48 governments, all independent, and with the national government for 7 counties. And I think it's all about each government has to operate on itself, and it is that collective nature. And so we don't want people comparing us with others, because each county has its own challenges, and there are also many governors also doing a lot of things that are pertinent to their counties. All I'm concerned about is what am I doing for
Ms. Ambitha, I'll put the same question to you, because your research here talks about best practices, and some governors actually sharing those best practices. Can you highlight some of what you found as you were conducting this research?
Yes, if you look at the top ranking counties, what we saw, for instance, David, your counties from your former province did very well. And we learned that they caucus, the Western governors started very early caucusing together. And I think the caucusing together meant that they shared the experiences and the best practices. So that, for instance, hypothetically, if Alfred was in Western, then he would be sitting there and talking about what he's done with ambulances, and somebody else would be able to share that. And Udwak, what we wanted to do, one of the objectives of the index was to try and focus attention to local best practice. Because if you recall, the beginning of 2013, when the governors were sworn in, one of the things that characterized county governments was overseas trips. In fact, we couldn't find anybody. We couldn't find county assemblies, and we couldn't find the governors, because they were in Las Vegas, learning about agriculture, of all places, or in Dubai, learning about one thing or another. Now we are asking ourselves, can we not have that best practice? Those best practice learnings.
But you document it here, because you say, for instance, that Kisii County invites Machakos County to share their strategy on revenue collection. Vihiga invites Kisii to share their strategies on health management.
Yes.
Various counties are planning to visit Bungoma. Your county is winning accolades for their agricultural strategy.
Yeah.
And Muranga is sharing best practice in cooperative development. So it actually is taking
It's starting, and
yeah.
I think when we were, for instance, the ones that I mentioned, like Kisii, we were actually there when your team was in Kisii, and they said it was because they had looked at the index. Because one of the things we said is use this tool to help you know who's doing well, and then try and learn from those people.
Yeah, but
And,
at
and,
the,
and
at the
I've
institutional
had
level,
many,
Alfred,
many counties come to Machakos.
Yes, yes.
Right.
The same way we sit down and we look at what are they doing in Kilifi?
Yeah.
We say, aha, what are they doing in Meru?
Yeah.
Aha. And so I send my team to Meru to learn what is happening. So this is already happening.
Yes.
So we're able to share these ideas and be able to carry them out.
So this happens because, you know, one of the reasons why the Council of Governors is established is exactly what Woodwork said, to share best practices among them. Is this an institutional discussion that happens when the governors meet and look at, because you have committees in charge of health, agriculture, and so forth? What transpires? What goes on?
No, we share ideas.
business-wise?
We share ideas, but I think the Council of Governors has, in the last 2 years, because of this transition period, been more of a lobbying organization, ensuring that we don't get the, you know,
because one would
bad
have
end of the stick.
expected the Council
So
of
that
Governors
is
to
what is
have
happening.
commissioned this research.
And did they commission? I don't think.
They didn't?
No, it's a long story, but we did try, and I think we will get to working with them. Having said that, Udwak, I must say that all the governors have actually received the index very positively, and in fact, I think we only have now about 7 counties that haven't consumed their index, because what we have done is sat with each county and shared their index with them line for line. Like he knows which ward in his county is happiest about agriculture and which one is not, and so on and so forth. But yes, naturally one would have thought that that's where it would have come from.
Okay.
Yes.
This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. We'll be back after this break. In the meantime, tell us what you think. What lessons can your county learn from the results of the County Track Index? Our SMS number is 22422, and our Twitter hashtag is Cheche.